Hi, you guys, Sarah Pacaro. Today's video is going to be about narcissistic mothers and their impact on their relationships with their children, specifically their daughters. So, narcissistic mothers and narcissistic daughters. Ooh, what a fun subject. Not really, but hopefully a very helpful one. You can see the impact of how narcissistic mothers affect their daughters specifically in today's video. And let's get into it. Remember, if you like this video, receive any value or content from it, please leave a comment, hit like, subscribe, all those things. So let's dive into it. When you imagine a mother-daughter relationship, you just close your eyes and you imagine a mother and a daughter. What is it that you imagine? I'm guessing that you imagine compassion, warmth, love, right? A mother who can kiss her daughter when she's sad, when has a boo-boo, and just make every problem disappear, right? That's what a healthy, loving parent would do, specifically a mother and their daughter, because they have this bond. And a daughter who can turn to her mother with every secret, every question about life, this loving, respectful bond that morphs into this beautiful friendship, right? But for daughters of narcissistic mothers, that relationship does not resemble anything like traditional love. Instead, it seems like a constant losing battle, like you're fighting a losing battle. And these daughters of narcissistic mothers often spend their childhood feeling confused, feeling isolated, feeling alone, feeling frightened. And as they grow up, those feelings of loneliness, confusion, feeling afraid become more and more intensified. So, first, we're going to talk about what the signs of a narcissistic mother are, and then we'll continue on. So, all narcissists, not just mothers, but mothers and fathers, have an inflated sense of ego. And because of this inflated sense of ego, they prioritize their needs and their desires above everyone else's, and they constantly are perceiving themselves as superior, as more important, and as entitled to have what they want. So subsequently, they have very little regard for emotion. They disregard emotion, and they can become very quickly reactive and very hostile when things don't go their way. So, we're going to take a look at some of the telltale signs of narcissistic mothers. The first one is that you will notice that they live vicariously through their children. And if there's more than one child, then you'll notice that they each have a role. I have another video about the roles of the children in a narcissistic family. But they relate to their children as independent individuals. Rather than relate to their children as independent individuals, as their own little human beings with their own navigation system, narcissists see their children as mere extensions of themselves, so more of themselves. Therefore, if the child has their own unique thoughts or needs, they are most likely to be punished rather than celebrated for having those unique thoughts and needs, because that is not what their thoughts and needs are. Again, they see this extension of themselves, not as a separate, independent individual. So if anything is different or you're unique from the way that they feel, think, or believe, that child gets punished for that. And narcissistic mothers will live vicariously through their children. They do this by forcing certain ideals or expectations onto their children. For example, if a narcissistic mother was into ballet and she was a ballerina and she grew up dancing, she might dress up her daughter in ballerina and dance clothes all the time and do the hair and the makeup. Maybe this daughter is more of a tomboy and likes sports and likes getting dirty and playing outdoors. The narcissistic mother does not care about that child's interests or likes or needs. They will live vicariously through them and say, you are going to be a dancer. Force them to go to dance or tap or ballet or jazz or whatever it is, because that's what they want them to be. So they will engage in superficial praising because narcissists admire others, or they want others to admire them. They love showing off their children's attributes, even though they might be critical of them at home. They tend to relish in others' approval of their children's skills, appearances, or accomplishments. You'll notice that narcissists and the narcissistic mother will turn to social media will always be bragging about their children, posting about their children. However, that approach isn't about praising the child, it's about showcasing their amazing and excellent job raising you. So they use their children to get that external outside validation. And quite often, the very easy way to do that is using social media. Narcissistic mothers and parents lack empathy. They have no emotional empathy. It's gone. They lack it. It's not existent. So they'll say things to their children, their daughters, like, why are you so sad? There's nothing to be upset about right now. Or, you really shouldn't be so angry over that. I don't see what the big deal is. You'll get over it. I've had this come up with clients in our therapy sessions where the daughter had a boyfriend break up with her. And the narcissistic mother sided with the boyfriend and was not consoling or loving towards the daughter at all and said things like that. I don't see what you're so upset about. There's nothing to be angry about right now. When the daughter's heart was crushed, she just had her first love break up with her. And to have the narcissistic mother side with the boyfriend and say, well, I would have broken up with you too. Are you kidding? But this is what a narcissistic mother will do. They are not mindful at all of other people's thoughts or feelings. Instead, they only reflect on themselves. In that specific example, the mother continued to maintain a relationship with that daughter's now ex-boyfriend and family and did not have any regard to her daughter and her feelings. They perceive other people as objects or accessories or competitors. This is what was happening in that case. They don't see them as whole people with varying emotions or needs. And as a result, they're not able to validate you for your experiences or validate their child for their experiences. Often they shame you for thinking differently from them because they lack empathy. You will notice this excessive dependency from a narcissistic mother, especially in connection and conjunction with her daughter. Say that the child, the daughter grows up and, they're ready for college and they're ready to move away or they're ready to get married and move. Her now husband or fiance has a job in another state and she's excited about this move, tells her narcissistic mother about it. And the narcissistic mother will say things about the move to college or to get married, whatever it is, says, you can't move. That's too far away. What am I going to do? What about me? You can't live that far away. I need you. Are you kidding? After all that I have sacrificed and given up for you when you were a kid, when you were a child, I mean, the least you could do, right? Or maybe the narcissistic mother has an addiction. I've had other clients, their mothers were addicted to drugs or alcohol, had medical expenses, and made that child, even an adult child, feel like it was their job to give her money. The least you can do is help me out. The least you can do is give me some money right now. I need to pay XYZ. And they are very excessively dependent on their children. Many narcissists want their children and expect that their children, when grown, even when young and when grown, to take care of them emotionally, financially, even physically for the rest of their lives. And as a result, they will manipulate their children into making unrealistic sacrifices to meet their needs. Maybe the child turns down a phenomenal opportunity to go to a wonderful college and then stay close and go to the college at home to still take care of that narcissistic parent's needs or emotions or whatever it is. Maybe they tell their husband, we can't move. We've got to stay here. I can't leave my mother. And they miss out on opportunities because the narcissistic mother or parent's excessive dependency. The next thing is neglect, severe neglect. Some narcissistic mothers, actually most, are so self-absorbed with their own lives, they have no emotional capacity or authentic child raising. They just don't have that nurturing, loving bone in their body. Instead of taking care of you, They have devoted most of their time to taking care of their friends, their careers, their intimate relationships, getting all of this external validation, completely neglected the childhood rearing ages. And in doing this, they become filled with rage and anger, and they will smear their child. In most cases, the narcissistic parent engages in what's known as a smear campaign. When their children fail to meet their expectations, smear campaigns are an intentional plan to humiliate their child in attempts to compromise their reputation. So, what this may look like if the mother smears the child is that they try to convince other family members, maybe the child's siblings or other family members, that that child is the problem and that that narcissistic mother, parent is the victim. And do you see what she's doing to me? They will test your friends, your partners, by making mean comments. They test your partner's or friend's loyalties. Like, are you on my side or are you on her side? And they will engage interactions with your friends or partners and make mean comments about you and try to get your friends and partners to say mean things about you with them. And they attempt to sabotage your career, your school, your work, anything in your life. You'll notice they do this through consistent gaslighting. They will make comments and statements like, "God, I was just being sarcastic. I don't know why you have to be so sensitive all the time." Or, "I never said that. You're imagining things. You're just looking at into things too much. Get over it." Gaslighting is a form of power and control, attempting to maintain power and control. And it's a challenging a questioning of your own reality as one of their most highly used manipulative tactics. So here's a question. Do narcissistic mothers hate their daughters? Well, hate is really far-fetched. I mean, to hate something is a really misguided term. Narcissistic mothers don't hate their daughters. Instead, they often view them as objects. They view them as objects or things that they can control, manipulate, or competitors to beat. So unfortunately, narcissistic love is conditional. What we all want is unconditional love. But the mother's love to their child, their daughter, is conditional. There are strings attached to it. When you act favorably, then your they tend to internalize your positive behavior as a tribute to their successful and amazing parenting job. And they bask in your success and they take responsibility for it. They say, well, they're successful because right? If it weren't for me, then they wouldn't have accomplished or achieved that. So the opposite is also true. When you disrespect or you embarrass the narcissistic mother, there are massive consequences. They become rageful, they become possessive, or they can become completely dismissive. Sometimes they will devalue you, stonewall you, silent treatment you. So, what are now some common characteristics of daughters of narcissistic mothers? When they grow up, what do they grow up to become? Know that every child internalizes their own childhood experiences differently. So, with that said, there are several traits that daughters may develop due to their relationship with a narcissistic mother. And it's quite interesting. Child dynamics. You may have another sibling who just says, whatever, mom's a mess. I'm done with that. While another child says, what do you mean? Right? And they feel that urge and compulsion to help the mother and to try to fix her or change her, continue to serve her. So the biggest impact you'll see is lack of boundaries. Daughters of narcissistic mothers or parents are not allowed to have personal boundaries. Their parents determine everything, and the rules often will change without notice because that narcissistic parent makes the rules and then changes them whenever they want to suit them in that moment. So as a result, the daughter will really, really struggle to identify or implement boundaries in their adult life. And for one, they may not even recognize. They may not recognize the benefits of having limits. They may be so terrified or so overrun with guilt for saying no. They may say, no, I could never say no. They may be so accustomed to catering to other people that they don't even understand the importance of honoring their own needs. Self love, self care, what's that, right? So moreover, a lack of boundaries tends to come from an inherent desire to please others, through people pleasing or to appease others. Daughters of narcissistic mothers spend so much time trying to satisfy their narcissistic mother, it often, in the short term, feels easier to just give in rather than try to compromise or stand up for yourself. You just find that you just go, oh, fine, whatever, take it here. But in the long term, you see that has extensive damage. Another impact is significantly low self esteem. Healthy parents will validate and they love their children unconditionally. Healthy parents also know that mistakes are an inherent part of childhood. It's how we learn, it's how we grow. Even if their child misbehaves, they discipline that behavior without shaming them, without making them feel that they are wrong, that they are bad. The behavior, that choice wasn't good, but you are still good. A healthy parent can do that, but a narcissistic parent rarely, if ever, will validate their children. Instead, they attempt to control and change or suppress behavior that doesn't fit within their belief system. So instead of allowing the child to explore their own identity, the child grows up always trying to cater to their parents and has no boundaries. This leaves them being very indecisive. Daughters of narcissistic mothers have little, if any, say in adulthood because they had little or no say in their childhood. They're used to someone making executive decisions for them. So, as a child of an adult or as an adult of a narcissist, you may even struggle to know what you want. You may have been criticized for having your own opinions or your own needs. And so you learned this learned behavior, you learn to disregard your needs automatically. And when you need to make a choice, you require excessive approval from others before proceeding. This can show up as simply as going out to dinner with your girlfriends and not being able to contribute or decide where you want to eat or what you want to eat when you get there and going, oh, I don't know, what are you having? Right? Instead of saying, let's go here and I'm going to have that. That sounds amazing. So they're constantly living in this state of caution or paranoia, that feeling of walking on eggshells, because children from narcissistic homes are very gifted, very, very gifted in interpreting body language, nonverbal cues. Because after all, they have to grow up trying to understand this parent or this mother's behavior and attune to their needs rather than the other way around. Rather than having that child attune to their needs, that child had to attune to the mother's needs. So it was like just the facial expression, the nonverbals. Mother walks in the house, doesn't have to say anything, and that child immediately knows what mood that their mother's in and what they have to do to kind of appease and stay calm so that people don't get hurt or yelled at. So as an adult now, you may notice if you had a narcissistic mother, you're overly prepared to anticipate danger. And this affects your interpersonal relationships. You might find it's very difficult to trust people because you fear. You live in a constant state of fear, of trauma, that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. This fear of being manipulated or being hurt by other people. So some children of narcissists become narcissists themselves because narcissistic mothers are overly preoccupied with external compliments or accomplishments and status. They lack empathy and they cannot attune to their child's inherent needs, especially emotional needs. While daughters may struggle with really low self-esteem due to their upbringing, others will swing in the opposite direction. So they become narcissists. It's almost like becoming a narcissist is an act of rebellion, right? After an entire childhood spent submitting to the narcissistic mother, they become a narcissist as a way of covertly being able to compete with that narcissistic mother. So that leads to the next wondering, why do they have trouble with male relationships, right? Daughters of narcissistic mothers often have trouble with male relationships. So as mentioned, many daughters struggle with issues related to low self-esteem, no boundaries, trust problems, and all of these variables can impact and affect dating and intimacy. They do not have the ability to see into themselves, so therefore they can't see into another person. So some daughters subconsciously seek partners similar to their mother. They may find a partner who acts as domineering and critical. Even though they resent this person, it feels familiar and it allows them to safely recreate what they know, that familiarity with their mother. Other daughters will take the opposite approach. They may subconsciously seek a very submissive partner, a weak partner. Therefore, they tend to assume a more narcissistic position within the relationship. And often, this dynamic is in response to the daughter's need to finally have some power, some control, and some say. If you spent your whole life feeling oppressed, it makes sense that you want a dynamic change, right? And many times the narcissistic mother will still have a front seat ticket to the adult daughter's life. She may meddle in the relationship, she may try to pit both partners against each other and seek endless attention from that adult daughter and her now relationship with her husband or family. If you are an who adult daughter of a narcissistic mother who now has a family, a husband, and you have children with this person, the narcissistic mother will often attempt to control how you raise your children or your child. And finally, some women will throw their guards up and walls up and avoid dating altogether. And they may feel so traumatized by their childhood relationship and upbringing that they don't want to ever date and they don't want to trust anyone ever again. Your mother or your father is the first person that you learn to trust. And when that trust is broken, you can feel completely shattered and broken. And then as an adult, you say, no, I'm not going down that road. That hurt too bad. I'm just going to focus on my career and money, making a life for myself. So you have the sense of ultra independence and feel like I don't want or need a man, but really deep down you desire having a loving, healthy relationship. So we're going to dive into jealousy. Jealousy is always at play. It comes up with every client when this is relevant in therapy. Narcissistic mothers are jealous of their daughters. Why? Well, because narcissists thrive on power and control, and they perceive that anything that could potentially jeopardize their power and control is an inherent threat. Therefore, when people give that child, that daughter, attention, the mother reacts. And the mother reacts by quickly putting them down, by making sarcastic comments. Well, oh, you just got lucky. Yeah, that person likes you, you got lucky, right? It wasn't ever because you deserved it, you were worth it. It was because you got lucky. They will claim that your success or accomplishments are their own. Well, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be able to do that. They attempt to retaliate or replicate whatever you're doing. You'll notice they copy you all the time, and it's like nothing you can do. You can be your own sense of individuality, or they'll validate you in public and then criticize you later behind the scenes, right? Out in public, they seem so charming and loving and supportive and caring. And then when you behind the scenes, oh, you better watch out. So your mother, as a narcissist, can be jealous of anything. They can be jealous of your appearance, your career, your accomplishments, your relationships, specifically if you have a good relationship with your father, her husband, ex-husband, whatever it is. If you have a good relationship as a daughter with your father, severe jealousy. And most of the jealousy stems from conflicting messages like, make me look good as the mother, but don't do better than me. And if you do better than me, you will pay, but make me look good, right? But while growing up, this jealousy to the child can be incredibly confusing because children naturally want to please their parents when they're small. When you're small, you idolize your parents as this godlike figure. And you don't feel like you're on equal footing with your mother. And so the child never understands, why are we always arguing? Why is this always so conflicting? Why are we always competing with each other? You get that sense and that feeling that something's just not right. And because low self-esteem is so synonymous with daughters of narcissistic mothers, there's a really good possibility that as a daughter of a narcissistic mother or parent, you don't see your own worth. Therefore, you probably cannot imagine that your mother would be jealous of you because you don't even see your own worth. So if I'm not worth anything, how can someone be jealous of me, right? Instead, what happens is you just internalize that you aren't good enough. So healing from a narcissistic mother or parent, it's the same thing, whether it's a mother or a father, acknowledging that your mother is a narcissist can be very eye-opening, especially if you grew up unable to recognize why the relationship felt so troubled, why nothing ever felt happy or peaceful or content. At the same time, that realization can be very upsetting, it can be extremely disturbing and very discouraging. You may think, why? Why me? Right? Because you already feel broken, shattered, confused, you don't understand. You may feel angry, you may feel sad when you reflect on your own childhood, and you also may feel unsure on how to move forward. So, first of all, establishing boundaries, educating yourself on narcissism, what the traits are, and using the different resources out there like this video to understand, yeah, my mother or my father, my parent was a narcissist, and then beginning to establish appropriate boundaries. It might mean going no contact, it might mean extreme limited contact, serious boundaries. Mother, I will call you on the phone, but if you bring up this topic or say this, I'm going to hang up. I'll come over on Christmas for an hour, and after an hour, I'm leaving, right? Narcissists don't change their ways. So they do what they need to do to meet their needs, even if their behavior just seems downright appalling to you. They don't care. They're not going to change. That is why boundaries are so critical. Physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, financial boundaries, all of those need to be considered when engaging with this narcissistic parent, especially on your journey to healing from it. And then going within, I take my clients on a transformation, a journey, an experience using rapid transformational therapy, using hypnosis to go within your inner mind and get to not just the symptom, but the very root of the problem, and extract those negative limiting beliefs that were instilled by this narcissistic mother and parent, and reprogram, rewire those inner beliefs to make them much more powerful, positive ones, to completely change your life, to know that you are not all of those things that that narcissistic mother or parent said. Those are projections of how she or they feel about themselves that became your internal dialogue and programming. So working together, like I said, we remove and extract, rewire, reprogram, and change that inner voice to take it from a very critical negative one to a thriving positive one, so you can live a life free from that narcissistic mother's damage. So I would love to connect with you and talk more, and talk what it would be like to work one-on-one together. If you're ready for that journey, then please check out the links in the comments in the description of this video. Check out my website. There's a ton more information and resources there. But thank you guys. I hope this helps bring you some more awareness and some light on possibly what the experience was like in your childhood with the narcissistic mother, and give you a very powerful resource to healing from that internal damage done. Thank you, and I look forward to connecting more one-on-one.